think as teachers, most of us would have done B.Ed, right? B.Ed or MPhil or whatever it is. We might have come across this theory of Gardner, psychological theory of Gardner. So maybe few we are making use of, maybe a lot in lower classes, primary sections. Almost all these multiple intelligence areas will be covered, but in higher classes, maybe few skills, and probably that is why to hold this interest in the curriculum, CBSE of late, they have started insisting on art integrated work, isn't it? Art integrated projects and art integrated work and so on. What do you people actually do? How do you cover up this art integrated work? We're supposed to mark them for that also, isn't it? As internals, we're supposed to mark even for that, write a report for that. Board may ask a report by the end of the session. So what do you people make your children do for that?
Ma'am, sometimes some seminars they can give.
Okay,
okay.
Right.
Or and that our project work, that is also a good example of the use of the multiple intelligence, I feel.
Right. Fine. What do you do, sir? Tommy, sir, what do you do? How do you take up this art integrated projects in your school? Sir is not able to unmute and talk. Jayanti ma'am?
PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
Role play.
Role play. Okay.
Displays of charts.
Right. Exhibits.
Yes,
Quite number of exhibits can be given. That's right. Then any other way of engaging them? Debates. Right.
Yes.
Okay. So we just move on to this multiple intelligence theory, and then I'll tell you what I give to my children, and maybe we would just move on to discuss the variety of multiple intelligence areas, right? So as per Gardner, multiple intelligences, they are 8, right? Interpersonal, intrapersonal, linguistic, bodily kinesthetic, logical reasoning, musical, spatial, naturalistic, right? Most of the topics that we have in class 11 and 12, I think they might involve visual, spatial, logical, mathematical. Maybe some topics that we are giving it off, like you were talking about PowerPoints, role play, right? And then exhibits, all these things. That would definitely come under interpersonal, intrapersonal, and so on. Again, even linguistic, right? Naturalistic. Yeah, what is this naturalistic intelligence? How do we bring that out? We will see them one after the other, quick, probably, maybe you will be able to interact a lot. Right. So we would basically concentrate in 2 areas, visual, spatial intelligence, and of course, logical, mathematical, right? So visual spatial intelligence is basically the intelligence where people are strong in their visual, right? That is, children, they are picture smart. The apt word for that is, you can call these children picture smart. And that's exactly what you require in our micro as well as macro, isn't it? Yeah, they need to analyze diagrams. They need to understand the charts, the trend charts, and then probably they need to read various diagrams, get the input from all those diagrams and charts, and then if they see any problem out there, then they need to come out with a solution, isn't it? Generally, maybe at lower classes, if you walk into a, nursery class or a primary class, what is the first thing that you see? How are the classes? Are they all
Display, they have displayed lot of charts,
display?
lot of toys.
Yes, toys. And then the, walls and board, everything is so different. Furniture, how the furniture would be?
Colorful.
Very colorful. Some of them in lovely geometrical forms also, circular tables and triangular tables and whatnot, right? So that itself says that from the beginning, from the nursery primary level till class 11, 12, there is a big appeal to what we see, right? Sometimes what we see, again, this is one thing. Have you understood this difference? How is this change from COVID to post-COVID? During COVID time, all of us were making use of online PowerPoint presentation and various other tools and videos and so on. Now back to class. Are all of you having smart board, and regularly are you making use of all these videos and PowerPoints in classroom? Or you're back to the blackboard and chalk piece? What is it?
Blackboard and chalk is all the method now. No? Students
So,
So
is something, do the children miss something? We were
Yeah, they-
really making use of something during COVID time, and then now back to class. What is the change that you observe?
actually now they need visual classes actually more, and we have to prepare charts and we have to give more activity oriented classes we have to give. Before, blackboard chalk, something we write and they write down and we explain. Now it's entirely changed actually.
Okay. So I feel that Indian economic development was much more better when I was teaching through online. In the sense, I was using so many colorful slides for my PowerPoint, right? For poverty or for sustainable development chapter or for any other chapter, right? Where it's a lot of theory to ensure that the children are able to visualize certain things. So many lovely slides we were making use of, isn't it? Now, all that is, reduced, much reduced, because we are also on this rush to finish portions. And then like when we are back to class, sometimes, the smart class facility is not available. So we are back to that, blackboard and yeah, maybe for certain cases it works. We can draw, but then to a limited extent only we can use those tools, isn't it? Right? So to retain the knowledge for a much longer time, I think the visuals, they go a long way. Yeah, it helps the children to learn very effectively if they are able. Sometimes even when we read books, we are so engrossed, fiction, I'm talking about fiction, we're so engrossed into whatever storyline is. And sometimes we think, oh, we start visualizing, don't we? Right? And sometimes when I read, I go back and I search for pictures. Oh, then I thought, no pictures, this does not have any pictures, right? So such is the impact of some authors while they write. Yeah. And some pictures, they start speaking to us, don't they? You just see the picture, that's it. And it's as if everything is in place. You're able to grasp so much from those pictures, right? So that brings out various skills in an individual. Some people, one mere look, they will understand a lot of things. Some people you will have to repeatedly keep telling them. Only when they hear repeatedly, then they will be able to understand, right? Some people you give them some work to do, then probably by doing they learn. So I think the very first session was an exhaustive session for experiential learning, where we were discussing about how children can be made to do. You can make children do certain things, and then from their experiences of doing, they will be able to learn, right? So visual or spatial intelligence, children who are picture smart, those who are able to analyze really well, they probably become artists and engineers and architects. For economics, as I was just telling you, it's a very, very important skill, because in macro and in micro, we have number of diagrams and graphs from where children have to analyze, right? And nowadays, along with the case study, in Indian economic development, they also give a trend picture or some kind of a graph, right, or a diagram, and they want the children to understand from that, analyze and come out with the solutions, right? So this is of immense help. This intelligence is of immense help. So when it is properly used in learning teaching, it would aid all the children, and some children who have this skill to a very large extent, they will benefit, right? So next one is a linguistic verbal intelligence. So we call these children word smart. They're word smart. They're good at. What are they good at?
System.
Communication, isn't it? Right? They are very strong with their communication skills. Probably they are the ones who go out for all the debate competitions near school, and then they're very good at public speaking. They just simply go there, grab the mic, and then they motivate others. Sometimes they crack a lot of jokes, and you can see that around these children, there's always a big crowd, right? They are like the beacon. They attract a lot of others. They always are in a big group because they are very funny, or they are able to narrate a lot of incidents. And these people, they also enjoy reading and writing. They have this love for words. They keep using these words. They enjoy reading. They compose music sometimes, right? Because they are good with words. Yeah, they compose music in the sense they write the lyrics. Yeah, and they become writers, journalists, lawyers, teachers. Yeah, fine. Then the logical and the mathematical intelligence. This is again very, very important for economics, both in micro and in macro. How are these skills made use of? Logical and mathematical skills. What are these skills? The slide says certain things. Can you tell me what are the logical and mathematical skills that?
Before drawing any graph, so we take the help of the schedule. With the help of that schedule, using our logical understanding, we try to interpret in the form of a graph.
Right, fine. So if you actually look into this class 11 textbook, earlier on, it used to be there as a very first lesson, introductory lesson, right? What am I talking about? I'm talking about the mathematical tools that are made use of in teaching learning economics, right? Slope of a line, and then like a curve, a downward sloping curve, and upward sloping curve, and convex, concave, and all these things. Yeah, where do we make use of all these lines? All along in all the theories,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Consumer equilibrium theories, and then production function theory.
Cost also everywhere.
Cost, macro again. Macro, if you see the 45-degree line. Yeah.
Income and employment.
Income and employment theory, absolutely. So we speak about the slope of the consumption curve. We speak about the slope of the demand curve, slope of the supply curve. There are some sums also on the basis of all this, right? Most importantly, in micro, children get confused after a while. oh, this is increasing, that is decreasing, this is increasing at an increasing rate, that is increasing at a decreasing rate. So their cost curves, it becomes like this, right? They end up doing the cost curves the wrong way. Instead of making the cost curves as a U-shaped one, it should fall and then it should increase, isn't it? They make it like a, I always tell them cost C, okay? It's like a cup. It has to fall and then it has to increase. Visualize that, fine? And then what about the production function? If you visualize your marginal product and then your average product, it should be like a lid. Fine, this is your cost, this is your product, okay? This is a cup, this is the lid, fine? So whatever you tell them in the examination, somehow they get confused, and then the problem is because they do not understand the reasoning behind it. Probably they do not have the logical or the mathematical intelligence. So if they are very good at this, then probably they will be able to very quickly understand the math or the logics behind it, and then they will know the slope. Okay, this has to increase, this has to fall, and so on, right? Okay, so children who are very good at this particular skill, they probably do accounts really well, and maybe they end up being mathematicians or computer programmers and engineers and so on, right? And this one, bodily kinesthetic intelligence, we don't use it much in the regular classroom, but sometimes when children get bored, we said, okay, fine, get up now. You've been sitting for a very long time. You stand, sit, you move around, you go take a walk, and you come back, you wash your face, and then you sit down. Then you will be able to concentrate, isn't it? Why do we do that? Why do we do that? Because that physical exercise, right? Even that very small physical exercise is going to bring in some kind of good energy. But there are children who cannot, sit tight in a particular place for a very long time. They always are on the move. For 10 minutes, that's it. And after that, they get up and then they'll have to go out. They'll have to look here. They'll have to look there. Fine. So it's not their mistake, isn't it? It's just that they are body smart, or they're very, very active. Fine. So they have excellent bodily kinesthetic intelligence. So these are children who are good at handwork, right? Now, maybe the examples that I gave you looks like attention deficit. No, it's not attention deficit that I'm trying to say. It's just that they always brim with a lot of energy in their body, right? So they make excellent dancers, builders, and surgeons, and so on. They are good with their hand. They are very, very creative with their hand. And even driving, if you look at it, the hand, leg, and the mind, everything should be in good coordination, isn't it? Yeah. So though there are automatic vehicles nowadays, unless your whole body is in good coordination, even driving becomes very difficult, right? So children who have very high body kinesthetic intelligence are very good at dancing or building or surgery and so on. Yeah. Do you make use of this particular area in class 11 and 12 in your regular classroom teaching? Yes, class 11 and 12. Does this make sense?
Yeah, role play can be done now.
Role play can be done. Absolutely. It can be done. Then, as part of art integrated projects, you can obviously give them role play, some kind of drama. And now that we have Indian economic development in class 12, we can always ask them to enact a particular chapter, rural development. Yes, they can probably even enact some kind of lack of rural credit, and how the farmers suffer due to lack of rural credit, due to, lack of credit and so on. Yes, that can be done, but not much. Musical intelligence, this also, right? Very rarely, very, very rarely we make use of this. Maybe in the passing one or two things we may mention it. Do you bring in music in your class? Sometimes, very rarely. Again, don't tell me we don't have time to even teach. Where will we go for music and dance and all these things? But do we do this? Do we do this? Do we? Can we?
I think
No?
very little scope for it.
Sorry?
No, ma'am.
No, not at all. You've not tried? You've not tried?
I didn't do, ma'am.
Sorry?
I didn't do, ma'am.
You have
I
not
have
done.
never tried. Yes, ma'am.
You have not tried. Jayanti ma'am?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so sometimes very rarely for some chapters we do it. I think in one of the earlier on sessions also, I do not know whether I shared it with you all. Jayanti ma'am was there, I think. Were you there, ma'am, last time?
Yes,
Where-
ma'am.
Okay, so you remember it? No?
No, ma'am.
No, okay. In budget chapter, what you can do is, this is very much, this is also from one of the movies, right? Again, since you do not know Tamil, I think I'll have to translate it also. Fine. So, what is the song in budget?
வரவு எட்டனா செலவு பத்தனா. Yes, ma'am.
Adhigam rendana, meedi tundana. Isn't it? Right? So, sir, ma'am, this is a song about how your revenue is. How your revenue is lesser
Plus,
than
the
that
expenditure is high.
Yes, expenditure is high. So what you have is a deficit, right? It's from one of the movies. So that can be sung, very old one. It can be sung, and it probably the children can be told about it. And even, rhymes, even rhymes, some of the rhymes, again, this is in Tamil. Not very many will understand this, but normally if I'm sharing it, I will share it in one of the lessons where I would tell them that, how too much of wants would probably create problem. So if human beings are going to have the contentment, then probably that would make them much more happier rather than all the programs, right? Yeah. So again, the rhymes is a Tamil rhyme. Jayanti ma'am, you remember the rhyme? Dosai amma dosai rhyme. சொல்லுங்க மேம், rhyme சொல்லுங்க.
தோசையம்மா தோசை, அம்மா சுட்ட தோசை, அப்பாவுக்கு 1, அப்பாவுக்கு 4, அம்மாவுக்கு 3, அண்ணனுக்கு 2, தம்பிக்கு 1.
தின்ன தின்ன ஆசைதான், திரும்பி கேட்டா பூசைதான். கரெக்டா? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So, teachers, this rhyme is all about how, dosa is made, right? And how dosa is distributed in a family. It is distributed in such a way that 4 dosas are made, and then it's given to the father, and then 3 dosas for the mother, and 2 dosas for the elder sibling, right? And for the little one, it is just 1 dosa. But then dosas are so good that the child wants some more and more and more. And then after that, the mother says, no, 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 no. That's it. 1 only, no more. If you ask some more, you will get nicely. Right? That is not stinginess. That is how from the very young age, the children are taught to be content. This is enough for you. This is enough. You will have to be happy with what you have. Right? That kind of contentment, if it is taught, then probably many problems may not arise. Probably we will not be leading an unsustainable life now. While I teach sustainable development lesson, I say this, right? And then this is a rhyme that is loaded with so much of meaning. right? And the children are happy to sing it. And then since they know the meaning, I mean, when I give a different version to that, they enjoy it so much and it always sticks to their head, right? So when we are going to live within our means, probably we won't be using so much of resources, right? Now, so much of resource usage is there because the wants are so many, isn't it? The wants have multiplied beyond a certain limit, and to satisfy the population, production increases to such a great extent that the non-renewable resources, they become reduced. So that is why we are here facing sustainable development problems and so on, right? So one or two things I try like that. Probably in your with your little knowledge, you might also try certain things that will probably appeal to children who love listening to some kind of song or some kind of music and so on, right? Okay. You are not reminded of anything in your language? No? Jayita ma'am? Tommy sir? Nothing?
No, ma'am, I have never given a thought on it. I have to think now.
Okay.
Yes, thank you,
Okay.
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Me
Fine.
too, madam.
Sorry, sir?
Me too, like that.
Okay, fine. Because, musica, pata, why? How can you do it in class 11 and 12? But just in the passing, probably, when I keep listening, I suddenly think, oh, this is so much, validating for what we teach. So that's how it cropped up, right? Okay. Then moving on to interpersonal intelligence. Now, this is where these people are people smart. Right? They are very strong communicators. It's not only people who have a good vocabulary. It's not enough if people have good vocabulary, right? They should also love to communicate with the others. So they are very good listeners. Around these children also, you will always find a big group because they love to interact. They love to communicate. They are mostly extroverts. So when that is the case, you will have to engage such children in small acts, especially in class 11 and 12, sometimes children may not open out to you, even if they have some subject doubts. Sometimes they may not approach you. But if you're able to identify certain leaders out there, make them group leaders and ask them to take care of 2 or 3, their learning is going to become extra good, isn't it? Because when knowledge is going to be shared, definitely they will also become the beneficiary. They will enjoy what they're doing and they will perfect their own learning, right? So this children with interpersonal intelligence, this is how we can make use of them at class 11 and 12 levels. Very quickly, I think from peers, children will be able to learn. All of us probably are doing this already, right? Or do you have small groups where you identify, team leaders and make them work in a group? You do this?
Ma'am, sometimes usually it will happen like that. The one student who has understood in the very first attempt, he or she
Yes.
will try to explain with his friends, explain the concept to his friends. It usually happens, ma'am.
It usually happens.
Happens.
Sometimes when they shy off, we can identify some children may not even know. They may lack the, confidence, right? So give them a small nudge and put them there and then say, I know you have understood this. Why don't you help the other students who are not that very good and make them in charge, and probably we can help them realize their potential, and probably that would help them a lot. Later on, they may become great counselors or probably psychologists or big leaders and counselors and so on, isn't it? After all, they're all class 11 and 12, 15, 16. Interpersonal intelligence, even at that stage, sometimes they don't realize it, right? In lower classes, enough training is given, but there are late bloomers. Some children, till they go on to college or till they take up to a job, they remain shy, then they evolve, then they change. Also, what I have understood out of my experience is till class 10, there are so many subjects that are forced on them, isn't it? In the sense, compulsory subjects, math and science and languages. Not all will enjoy math and science, right? They have aptitude just for probably few subjects, and for few they may not. And 11 and 12, when they branch out, right? When they come on to the commerce classes, they are not doing, most of them, they may not do science and math, right? I think it's just pure commerce or humanities in most of the schools, right? So maybe till class 10, they might not have liked math, they might not have liked science. So then they would have, had this kind of diffidence, they would have kept quiet, right? But once they move on to class 11 and 12, once they start liking what they learn in class, that is when they realize that they love to interact with the rest, right? Suddenly they feel as if they, enjoy what they are doing, and then they listen so well, right? And then they also start interacting class 11 and 12 because now they are very confident in their learning, and then probably they become people smart, right? They become people smart. Have you seen this, right? Some children, I mean, if you handle 9, 10, 11, 12, probably you can see this change in them. Have you noticed it? Is somebody doing this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
It's
Maybe-
even true for me, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, I had a great fear on physics and chemistry.
Okay.
So I was not able to concentrate till class 10th, but later
Okay.
on when I chose my electives,
Right.
so that time
right.
I grew interest on the subject, and thereafter
Okay.
it went on. It's
Right.
very true for me.
Right,
Yes,
right. I think most of us have this, especially, children who come to take up commerce or humanities subjects. Suddenly they realize that, they become very confident, they become extroverts, and they become people smart, and they want to interact, they burst out with new, experiences. They would like to share it with the rest of them. And then they develop leadership qualities and so on, much later on. And probably we can identify and make use of such skills in the children. Naturalistic intelligence, right? This again, maybe not that much. We may not be using it that much. Maybe while we are teaching the sustainable development lesson in class 12, we can do this. Or while we are giving art integrated project, we can bring out this kind of naturalistic intelligence. So people who are nature smart, right? Have you seen people completing engineering graduation, or people doing some kind of professional degree? After a while, they just get back to the village, or they get back to their hometown. They give up all their profession, and then what they want to do is start farming. Have you seen that? Or whatever they do, they have their own terrace farm. They will have to have some time up there in the garden. They have a green thumb, so they will have to do it. Yes, have you seen that? Have you heard of it?
yes, ma'am.
Yes, those are people with naturalistic intelligence. They're always in tune with nature, right? They will simply not agree to deforestation. They are extremely aware of even small changes that are brought out in the environment, right? They are all nature lovers, and whether it's maybe they rise very early, probably they go on to the beach side to see the sunrise and sunset and so on. Fine. And as I said, extreme cases where they even give up whatever very good profession they practice, and then just because they want that satisfaction, they get back to nature, isn't it? Or even when they are not able to do it, city life, simply they cannot live, right? They get back to their hometown, or maybe a small village or whatever, so, and during even the weekends and so on. Why? Is it only to meet their family back there, or age-old parents or anything back there? No, it's also probably nature calling them, isn't it? Yeah. So maybe these intelligences we don't use much in our regular teaching, learning, but we'll have to probably identify and maybe engage even these children, right? Then this one, these are additional ones, existential intelligence, right? People who really think a lot. Nowadays, children, they think a lot, too much, fine, because they consume so much of content. Especially after COVID, so many videos and so many books and so much of gadget usage, for good, for bad. Yes, they have started thinking a lot, right? To the extent of having even existential crisis, isn't it? Right. Then these are some more additional ones that we were making use of in the past couple of years. Pedagogical and digital intelligences, human versus digital intelligence, use of all the gadgets for our teaching, learning. So this, I think, has become very, very, very relevant to all of us. If not for this, our session would not have got converted and nicely, successfully happening now, isn't it? Yeah. So
Yes,
why multiple intelligence? Why should we engage all our children in all these areas, and why we should make use of all these tools while we are teaching? How do the children gain, and how do we gain? How do the children gain?
Children, they will get more information. They will more interactive to create interest.
Absolutely, to hold their interest and to make learning more holistic, isn't it? Then anything else?
To make them understand according to their ability.
Yes, exactly. Very effectively they will understand, right? Some topics, how many ever times you tell them orally, they will not be able to understand. The moment you draw a diagram, the moment you do a table, the moment you show a picture, immediately they will be able to, oh, yeah, now I see, now I get it, now I understand, right? Yeah. So maybe to make the teaching, learning very, very effective. So then they love the subject that they are going to be taught, and that increases passion for learning. When we are making multiple intelligence tools in class, that definitely is going to be an inclusive tool where we are going to probably interest all kinds of students. It prolongs the attention span for 1 hour. How long is your class period? Is it 1 hour, 45 minutes?
40 minutes.
40 minutes. Sometimes during, the special classes, or even during the April month and all, we had classes for 1 hour, 1.5, 1 hour, and so on, right? Can the children sit for such a long time, 1 hour, 1.5 hours, just like that, and listen to the lecture method?
No.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Definitely not. So what do? We teach, and then we make them read probably. We probably pull them up to the board. If it's going to be statistics or micro or macro, we say, come, I'll give you a sum. Let's see how much you've understood. Come and do it on the board. Come participate. Yeah. Or we make them write something. We keep changing the activity. If it's going to be for a very long time, we understand that we'll have to retain the attention of the children. The concentration span should be increased. So we have to make use of multiple tools, isn't it? Then it definitely empowers the learners, because they will be able to identify their strong areas, and that would help them to learn really well. For effective learning, it would be a great tool. And it also builds the teacher-learner relationship. How does it build the teacher-learner relationship? How does it build teacher-learner relationship?
They will ask doubt.
That's all, ma'am. Yeah. 1.5 hours, I'm just going to talk. That's
No,
it.
ma'am, no, ma'am.
You're going to listen.
No.
Will that build relationship, ma'am?
It becomes more interactive. So
Children definitely interact a lot. Then one joke that I cracked in the class, probably children retain that better. Probably I'm sharing something which they agree with. Fine. So maybe they understand my perception better. And they say something, I make them interact. They say something, I understand them better. Yes. And then we carry it forward from there. Oh, did you read this? Did you see this? Did you do this? Yeah, this is very much connected to this. Fine. So it is not just subject that we are going to talk eventually, isn't it? We understand one another much better, and that is going to improve the learning and the teaching. It is simply not economics alone that we are going to impart, especially at this particular level, adolescents, right? They may have multiple things to discuss with us. And for that, for them to open up, definitely we will have to make use of multiple intelligence tools. Otherwise, oh, this teacher, she will just come, say something, she will lecture, and then he will lecture and then get out. Wow. No, I can't talk, isn't it? Probably that is what they're going to think, and then that's it. So when you're going to engage them in variety of activities and, in a fun way, in a different manner, you're going to teach to them, definitely the interaction becomes better. That is going to improve upon the relationship. And yes, for the teacher would be so satisfied that the knowledge is imparted effectively, and the child is going to be so happy that the child has learned really well, isn't it? So that's how it builds the teacher-learner relationship. Anything that you wish to share from your side that has made the children more engaging?
Ma'am, during some exhibition or something, so that time they just come out from that simple student teacher relationship, and they become much more free, or much more they feel the teacher is much more approachable. So, or during any, not only for the subject oriented, ma'am, during any cultural event, during the school or anything else, they can find a comfort zone with the teacher also.
Very true, ma'am. Very true. Even when you take them out to the, culturals, right?
Field trips and all, that
Yes,
also
field
enhances
trips.
the relationship.
Absolutely. Field trips, and then to the other schools for some cultural fiesta or something. It could be very much an eco quiz that you're going to take them to, or it could be very much for some kind of debate or some kind of activity that you're going to take them to. So, but then you're going to go out with them, and then there in that spot, you're going to be so much interacting and so on. So yes, that is going to bring out a different dimension from them, isn't it? From both of us, right? Yeah, sir, you have something to share? You have not seen?
Yeah, madam. Actually, outside class, the students should feel we are a good friend. Okay, so friendly approach should be there from our side. If we are not friendly with the students outside, they don't approach us with the questions or doubts. They should not fear us. We should not create such atmosphere. And
very true.
We should be friendly with them outside class.
Very true. Very true. Very true. Okay, so moving on to our specific area of today's discussion, multiple intelligence in teaching learning economics. So here, as I was trying to tell you, some simple mathematical application tools we always make use of. in both micro and in macro, right? So if we are going to give them the initial concepts about the line, the slope, and the curve, and the equations, and all these things, how to arrive at, you know, some kind of relationship between one variable and that of the other, and so on, then that will go a long way to help them understand the concepts, right? So this, I think we have discussed this. So moving on to, okay, so yeah, what is this called? Is this called as the step staircase method of measuring slope? Yes. Are these curves familiar to all of us?
Yes.
So
Yes,
the very
ma'am.
first one,
Yes, yes.
what is this first one?
Freshman
Concave.
PPC.
A concave one to the origin, right?
Yes, yes.
So even before we move on to the chapters like production function or consumer equilibrium or budget line or indifference curve, or in macro, if it is going to be the consumption function, the AS curve, the AD curve, and so on. Some of these simple concepts, if you are going to teach them and then start with class 11 and 12, probably it will be a very big help, isn't it? So can you just tell me what is this that we see? Why is this called as a step staircase method? And what is the comment that we can probably give them this curve without telling them any example or anything, simply give them this curve, right? And ask them to comment on the slope of the curve, right? By drawing this, right? By drawing this concave one and then showing the step staircase method. How will you explain? How will you explain? Can one of you try that?
And first, we have to say that any curve is to be measured from the point of origin.
Mm-hmm.
So, or from the origin, we have to look whether it's coming down or it's moving up.
Okay.
So that relevance point should be the origin. That is what we have to make them understand.
So simply we'll have to, you know, when we are talking about this curve, we ask them to comment on the slope of the curve. They are simply going to say, as laymen, they may say, okay, it slopes down from left to right, or they may say it is concave to the origin, isn't it? Yeah. So then what else do we say? How do we add on to that? How do we add on to that? From here, from this concept, can we take them on to the increasing slope? Can we do that? Yeah. How can we take them on to the increasing slope and the decreasing slope from this diagram? I have shown the step staircase. Yeah, you're not familiar with this?
Yes, ma'am. If we are moving upstairs, mean we want to leave something.
No. Okay, ma'am, it's not like that. The step staircase method, in other words, that
Actually,
is
this one, what to say, ma'am? This vertical distance is gradually increasing.
okay. Yes. So this is called as the rise. Fine. As you said, it is the rise. Fine. This one, this is the rise. We are, let us say we are starting from A. We are starting from A. From A, when we move down along this curve AG, from A to B, when we are going to move, right? This distance, horizontal distance, is a run. Okay, this vertical distance, that is a rise. Okay, And once again, from B to C when we are moving, yeah. So this horizontal distance is the run. This vertical distance is the rise. Fine. So as Jaita ma'am pointed out, we understand that as we gradually move from A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E, and at last to G, the vertical distance seems to be increasing, whereas the horizontal distance of the run, that seems to be
Same.
constant. Right? Yeah. So the rise by run, if we are going by these numbers, then 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, how much is that? Just by 1 unit it is changing, right? Whereas here if you see from A to B, when we are going to move, there is going to be a change by 1 unit, right? And then from B to C, when we are moving, the change is by probably 2 units. Yes. From C to D, it is going to be 3. So like that, we understand from one particular point A to B to C to D, as we are moving along this curve, yeah, we are going to have more rise than that of the run. Yes. So if we calculate slope, normally the formula to calculate slope through this step staircase method is the race by run, or in economics, we call this as a loss by gain. Yeah, we call that as a loss by gain, isn't it? So what is the loss here initially? What is the loss here initially? From A to B, when you want to move, the loss in the guns is going to be 1 unit, correct?
Yes,
And what are you gaining?
1 unit.
1 unit of the other one, which is butter, right? And then the next one, what is happening? The loss when you move from B to C is
Lost 2.
3 guns.
2,
Two-
right?
2
2.
guns. Yes.
And what are you gaining?
Only
1.
one button.
Only 1. And then from C to D, when you're moving, what do you see? You're losing 3
3 units.
and you're gaining only 1,
Yes.
isn't it? So this is how probably we can tell them that the race by run is going to be increasing. Now, what does the downward sloping curve first of all show? From A to B when we are moving, if it is going to be the consumption activity, then we understand that at this particular point A, this person has all guns, right? And no butter at all. Fine. When that is not all right, when the person wants to consume butter, let's say 1 unit of butter the person wants to have, then there has to be some sacrifice made, isn't it? And that sacrifice is what is shown along this curve, right? And from A to B, B to C, C to D, as we are moving one after the other or down this curve, we understand that the rate of sacrifice, it increases, right? So this sacrifice, it makes the curve negative. Why are we sacrificing? Why can't the consumer have more of both? What is the basic assumption there?
Scarcity.
Scarcity. Resources are limited. So yeah, probably we can give them an example and then we can start off with that, right? So scarcity is going to make this downward sloping, the curve downward sloping, right? And as you move from one point A to B, B to C, C to D, and so on, what is happening? The rise by run or the loss by gain is increasing. And that is what is going to make this curve concave. Isn't it? Right? So we can probably teach them this, then slowly we can pull them into the production possibility curve. And then we can say, okay, this is what happens. Then give them the assumptions and then say, okay, fine. There will be an increasing marginal opportunity cost or increasing rate of substitution. Yeah. So what about this curve? You can immediately ask the children to comment about this curve. Right? What about this curve? Why do we say this is linear?
Constant. Because
Straight line.
Straight line, constant, what does it mean?
raise by run is equal to 1.
Okay, so we see that this vertical distance, fine, is equal to this vertical distance, fine. Same way, the CE, this horizontal distance, is equal to this horizontal distance, namely FG, correct? So as ma'am rightly pointed out, the rise by run in the case of D to E and E to G will be the same, right? Over here, the rise is 2 units from 6 to 4. The change is from 6 to 4, 2 units, right? To gain 1 to 2, the change is 1. So 2 divided by 1, 2, right? And from this particular point E to G, again, you look into this, the change is 4 minus 2, 2 units again, right? And to gain what?
1.
1 more unit of good X from 2 to 3, right? So here also 2 by 1, so that will be 2.
2.
So we see that when we calculate the rise by run, it is the same constant figure, right? Ma'am said, okay, it's linear, it's constant. We'll have to tell them, show them how it is calculated, isn't it? So probably this will be what we would be using for which concept? For which concept will we use this?
Budget line.
Budget line. If it's microeconomics, definitely budget line, right? The same thing we can make use of for the total revenue, isn't it? Total revenue curve. What is the shape of the total revenue curve?
Total revenue curve is
curve will be
upward rising.
Upward
Inverted
rising,
U.
more
This
and
is
most
marginal
importantly,
revenue,
it will be a
average revenue.
45-degree.
45-degree line, isn't it? It will be a total revenue, it will be upward sloping and a 45-degree line in which market?
Perfectly competitive.
Perfectly competitive market. So we can bring in a lot of these things much later on when we are going to tell them about the constancy and the linear relationship between the two variables, right? So that is another thing. This one again, convex to the origin. Here, what do we observe? We observe that as one moves from E to A to B, and then B to C, and finally from C to F, what is happening? What is happening to the vertical distance?
It's falling.
It's falling. The vertical distance is falling. So for a convex curve to the origin, the vertical distance or the rise will continuously fall. Yeah. Again, what could be the reason? The rate at which the substitution is happening, it is at a diminishing rate. Isn't it? All that theory, we can bring it in later. But here to understand, we can make use of simply good X and good Y, or some variable X and some variable Y, and we can talk about substitution. Just we can talk about substitution, right? how at a constant rate there can be substitution happening, how at an increasing rate and how at a decreasing rate substitution might happen, right? So maybe we can use this and then go on. How do you introduce it? Now that I have told you how I start, how do you introduce? You straight away get into the topic and then you start teaching them? Yeah, teachers?
Yes, ma'am. I first introduce the schedule and then with that I explain the graph with the
Okay,
schedule.
okay, fine.
Madam, first we find out one example from our local market, then prepare one schedule. On the basis of schedule, we prepare.
Okay, so with the schedule you start off, right? Okay. This concept, the flat and the steep curves, this also sometimes, children always get confused in the elasticity chapter, isn't it? This one is taught by you. This one is taught by you.
Yes, madam.
So compared to this particular point, when we move on to, D1 and D2, these are the two curves. One is elastic, the other one is inelastic. So how do we say this is elastic, this is inelastic, or how do we say a flat curve is more elastic and a steep curve is less elastic? How do you teach this, sir?
Ma'am, here I give a trick to them. It is that elastic we can stretch long. So if you are stretching long, it is sleeping, and the less it's elastic, it rises. It's that's
Okay.
how I try to explain
Okay, fine. Okay, that sounds interesting. How do you explain this, sir?
Ma'am, actually, people respond more towards the changes in the price in the case of flat one. And the
Okay.
steep one, people respond less towards the changes in the price. So therefore, it is inelastic.
Right. So that is just there in the diagram, isn't it? That's absolutely there in the diagram. This is the initial price, and then when the price is going to go down, we see the impact on the steep curve to be very less, but then the impact on the flatter curve is much larger. There is a big change with respect to the flatter curve. So we say, okay, fine. There is a big response in the demand due to the fall in the price. So that is a normal way. But Jaita ma'am, that is nice. This that's something that I've learned. Okay, rubber band.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
nice.
Flexible.
Okay. Jayanti ma'am, what do you say, ma'am? How do you teach?
Elasticity means more change. Inelasticity means no change.
Okay. No, but this
So
concept
this-
of, okay.
That elasticity means the change is high due
Mhm.
to change in price. The demand is more.
Okay, fine, right. This one, measurement of slope, do we teach this for class 11? Demand function. This is a very, very useful concept for macro also. Even if we don't teach this one demand function in class 11, definitely in class 12, we will have to teach a similar one. Which one is that? Consumption function, isn't it? Just like how we teach demand function, there we will have to teach consumption function. Correct? Do you teach this, teachers? It's not there exhaustively in the curriculum.
No, ma'am.
Yes,
No.
ma'am, it's not.
No. Okay, fine. So, but then if we are going to probably introduce this concept in class 11, it would be of, maybe children will understand this very quickly when we move on to macro, right? So when I say the demand function is A minus BP, what do I mean by that? A is the amount of demand at zero price, right? That is the y-intercept of the demand curve. If we look at this demand curve, right? The amount of demand that is going to be there at zero price. At zero price, will there be some demand? For what kind of products will the demand be there at zero price?
Zero price means free, so it's non-economical goods.
Public goods,
Yes.
isn't it? Public
Yes.
goods, definitely, or freebies also. When they are going to be there, definitely there will be a demand, right? So
Yes.
this amount of demand is the demand that is independent of the price change. Normally, all of us know that as per law of demand, when the price increases, then the quantity demanded falls, right? Demand is very much a dependent variable. It depends upon the price changes. But there is also the small portion of the demand which might be independent of the price. So that is what is this A, right? This should immediately help you to understand the consumption function, isn't it? In consumption function, what do we teach? Which is the portion?
Autonomous consumption.
Autonomous consumption. Fine. Even at zero level of income, even when there is no income in the economy, still the population have to survive. So there will definitely be some amount of demand and there will be definitely some amount of consumption to survive. So yes, there will be this income independent consumption. Same way over here in microeconomics, this portion, right, along the x-axis, what do we see? OA, right? OA is the amount that is going to be demanded, which is demanded at zero price. Right? The price is zero, completely nil, zero price. The product is a freebie. Even when the price is zero, there would be sometimes a demand, which is OA. Even in the market, this makes a lot of sense, isn't it? Even in the market, it makes a lot of sense. Okay, something I have done. This is just gone out of my 1 second. Right. Yeah, I think it's back now. And what about this? This portion, as we move up along the demand curve, price increases, right? So as the price increases, we know the quantity demanded will fall. Yeah. So can we say that is the portion of demand that is dependent on the price? Can we say that? Yeah. So the demand function, can we write it as A minus B into P? So what is this A then? A is the demand that is going to be price independent. Fine. Or that is autonomous. Fine. And what is this B into P? Why minus symbol there? Why minus symbol there?
Because negative relation with price.
Exactly. So we are going to talk about the portion of this B. It talks about the change in the quantity demanded, right? Due to the change in the price. Fine. We are going to talk about the slope of the demand curve. Correct? So due to this change in the price, what is going to be the change in the quantity demanded? That is nothing but the elasticity that we try and measure, isn't it? Or along the slope of the demand curve, we try to measure the change in the dependent variable because of the change in the independent variable, right? So this minus symbol, as ma'am pointed out, that brings out the inverse relationship between the two, namely price and the demand, correct? And what is this P? The specific level of price, right? Which indicates this B, which is the change in the quantity demanded due to the change in the price, is the dependent demand And what is it dependent on? The price. Right? So that's how you explain this A minus BP out there. Yeah. And that is what is the demand function. So a similar one is your consumption function. So what is this consumption function? What is a consumption function?
It's positively sloped.
Yeah, the equation for consumption function.
Oh, C is equal to C naught plus C of Y.
C bar plus C B into Y.
Okay, oh, hi,
That is
okay,
how-
yes.
Isn't it? That's how our
Yes.
textbook brings it
Yes,
out,
yes, yes, yes.
right? So where probably the C bar will be the autonomous consumption, this portion,
Yes.
fine, which
Yes.
is income independent,
Hmm.
right? And plus here we are going to say plus C bar plus B into Y. And what is that B? Nothing but the change in the
MPC.
consumption.
Hmm.
Yes, MPC, which is the change in the consumption due to change in the income. So therefore demand, that was change in the demand due to change in price. Here for consumption, it is going to be change in the consumption due to change in the income. That is all. That is all is a difference. Just like how we have the demand function, we can also come out with a supply function. So for supply, what would it be?
A plus BP.
BP. Absolutely. Absolutely. So the supply at zero price, yeah, which will be the price independent supply,
Hmm.
plus it would be the
Elasticity.
supply that is dependent on the price. And since there is a positive relationship, the plus sign, plus B into P, right? So maybe in micro, if we are going to explain that when they don't have that much tension, the demand and the supply, though we may not test it, but probably we can mention it. So very smart ones will be able to quickly relate it in class 12. Yeah. Okay. So the moment you see this, you should be able to tell me something. Rectangular hyperbola. This is for? What is this for? This immediately should tell you about two things. What are the two things you are reminded of?
Price will never become zero.
Sorry? No, rectangular hyperbola. This is a rectangular hyperbola curve wherein the rectangular area is equal. This area
Because 10%
OPQR,
if the price decreases mean
okay,
20% the demand will increase.
Unitary elastic demand.
unitary elastic demand, absolutely. Then
Sorry.
that is, there is a proportionate change, isn't it? There is a proportionate, there is one more curve which you always draw like this, and you say, okay, this is also a rectangular hyperbola. Which lesson is that, and how do we teach that? Average fixed cost.
Yes, yes.
Isn't it? Average
Yes,
fixed
yes,
cost.
yes.
Correct?
Yes.
So
Yes.
look at this rectangular space. If you multiply it, what will it be? 4 into 3, 12. Right? Here also, if you're going to multiply it, it will be 4 into 3, 12. Yeah. So at Q and then at this, if this curve is going to be an average fixed cost, fine. If you're going to multiply the rectangular area, then you will arrive at the total fixed cost. Correct? Yes. What am I making?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. The 0 to 4 is 4 units. 0 to 3, 3 units. So the rectangular area, if I'm going to multiply and find out, it will be 12. Similarly here, 12. isn't it? So if I'm going to multiply the area, the rectangular area under my average fixed cost, I should arrive at my total fixed cost, isn't it? So children, they will never go wrong that way. We can tell them, okay, how many ever tables we are going to draw, one diagram and then one simple explanation, logical explanation. If we are going to give it to them, definitely they will remember it well, isn't it? So AFC and the unitary elastic demand, both the concepts, we teach this. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this one, this I think we just discussed it in on the go. We discussed it. Two curves in economics, one in micro, one in macro. It's a big significance. In micro, it is the
Total revenue curve.
total
under
revenue in
perfectly
your
competitive
perfect
market.
competition. In perfect competition, since the price is the same, to sell more at the same price, when the seller is able to sell more and more at the same price, the total revenue generated will be increasing at a constant rate. So when you draw the line, it will be a linear one. It will be a linear one, linear upward sloping one. What about macroeconomics?
Aggregate supply.
Aggregate supply. So is that actually the aggregate supply line? What is that 45-degree line in macroeconomics? Though we said that is the national income, what is the significance of that 45-degree line?
National income is identically equal to aggregate supply.
Okay, so that brings out the circular flow remaining intact.
Yes.
For every expenditure, there is an equivalent income. And for every income, there is an equivalent expenditure. Because what are we going to measure? We are going to measure the expenditure, consumption, and the investment expenditure along the y-axis. And along the x-axis, we will be measuring the income, output, and employment, and so on, isn't it? So at this point A, right, the vertical distance will simply be equal to this horizontal distance. Same way at this point B, this vertical distance will be equal exactly to this horizontal distance. So since this 45-degree line is exactly cutting this positive quadrant into two equal halves, that shows the income expenditure equality. So it's just a reference line. The line is a reference line which tells the income expenditure being equal. So that is precisely why we make use of the three methods even to calculate the national income, isn't it? Product method, income method, and expenditure method. How is it that whichever method we are going to calculate the domestic income will be the same? This is the logic, isn't it? So that is what we need to tell them. A very simple thing, but then it's of great significance in the theory that we teach them. Fine. So the rest of the things, these are the activities that you people were talking about. I think all these, do you give them crossword and quiz and mind map and all these things, scrapbook?
Mind map give, ma'am, but not this quiz and cross. I have never tried actually.
Okay, okay. So maybe scrapbook and Chitrakatha. I think during COVID time, so many Chitrakathas were exchanged and video clippings were exchanged. Some of my children, class 11 children, they have even done some video clippings for Art Integrated project. So some animated PowerPoints where they have given voiceovers and so on. So simply you need to only tell them. They show all their talents in that, and very small concepts, simple concepts, they take it up and they would love to explain it. They would voice over and they love to make their own PPT and so on, right? Same way, children who have artistic skills, if I give them a simple concept in Indian economic development, they are able to draw it through Chitrakatha. Even banking, money, budget and all these chapters, they were able to wonderfully draw it and bring out the information. Maybe as art integrated one in class 11, at least we can give them. Maybe in class 12, we may not have enough time, but in class 11, if we are able to give it, nothing like it. Market, we can give market, isn't it? Sir has tried something. You have tried, sir?
Yes, ma'am, actually, online teaching time, I used one application, Quizlet application. And
Okay.
just, there we have to, we have to give definitions and we have to prepare notes and everything, and all the role play or different levels of games will be created automatically by the application. And it depends upon the student's level, actually. The student can select the activity according to the level. It's a very good application. I tried that one. It was wonderful.
Absolutely. Definitely they will start, loving the subject that we teach when we are going to engage them in all these kinds of multiple intelligence tools, isn't it? Maybe they are very less only, but still it would be very, very useful to them. That is exactly what they will remember. All the other theories that we teach them, they will forget down the line. Whatever PPC or consumption function, demand or supply, whatever theories we teach them, all that they will forget. But at the end of the day, whatever role play they have done, whatever pictures they have done, that is what they will exactly remember. Oh, I did this. Maybe they will even preserve it, and then after some years they will have a good laugh over it and say, oh, this is what I made in my class 11. Look at it. Isn't it?
Yeah,
Okay.
madam, have you ever tried the application Quizlet?
Which one, sir?
Quizlet application. One
Okay.
application.
Okay, okay. No, I have not tried. Okay, fine. What I just told you what I have tried. I've given them
Yeah.
a chance for a quiz they have done through Google form for me.
No, it's not a Q. Its application name is Quizlet actually, and millions of teachers are there already in the application. And if we have any doubt, and we can discuss with the teachers, and we will have our own blog and everything, and the students will get link, and when they open, they get different activities actually. And that offline, they will not do in the class, and when they are at home at free time, they will do. And
Okay.
they will learn very less.
Okay, okay. Maybe you can say, pass around that link to me, sir. I think it will be, I don't know whether I'll be able to search out on my own and arrive at that. If there is any link for that app or something, probably you can.
No, you just search Quizlet and you create your own account. We have to pay money. Subscription charges are there actually.
Okay, right. So maybe not all the children will be able to use this.
No, children will get a free subscription, and we teachers how to pay little.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.